Do you struggle with setting healthy boundaries and communicating them with the other person in the adequate way? Or do you set very strong boundaries and drive other people away? In this video, we talk about how you can set healthy boundaries and how you can find a balance between standing up for yourself and also staying vulnerable and connected with the other person. If this is the first time that we meet, I'm Jonas Erb, and on this channel we talk about authenticity and personal growth. We provide tools and ideas that help you gain clarity, freedom, and fulfillment in your life. If you haven't yet, consider subscribing just down here. And I also wanted to announce there are free spots open for a 30-minute free coaching call with me for the Embodied Authenticity Coaching, helping you to let go of your mental and emotional blocks for you to achieve your authentic goals in 6 months. So wait until the end of the video for the announcement on how to enroll for that. So this whole thing about setting boundaries, but also staying vulnerable and being connected has been something important for my coaching clients and also in my life. And I really want to help you understand like what is behind the whole thing about boundaries. And so one thing that we have to notice, like a lot of people are looking at boundaries as like this thick wall that I'm basically putting around myself and saying, look, this is my boundary. If you cross this boundary, then it's over. But the problem with this is that the other person might cross a boundary without even knowing. So if the other person crosses this boundary and doesn't even know, and you say like, okay, it's over, then you're basically always on the edge of like the relationship or the friendship to break up. And so the important thing to understand is really, let's take an example. Let's say you don't want the other person to go to a certain event, or you don't want the other person to meet a certain person, and you feel like it's crossing your boundary if the other person does that. And then what is really like the constructive way to go about it is to first start to feel inside of yourself, okay, what's going on? Like, how do I feel? How does it make me feel? What's the reason why I feel this is a boundary? And then basically going to the other person and communicating what's happening inside of yourself. So there are usually 3 ways that this could happen. It's like, first way is like, okay, now you cross this boundary. If you do that, then it's over. That's kind of like the hard thing. And the other thing is like, you're not even mentioning it. You realize there's a boundary crossed, but you're not mentioning it. And so then the other person is not gonna know it and it's gonna step all over you. And the third way is really to start really communicating and being in connection and vulnerability with the other person. And that is really communicating how it makes you feel if or when the other person does that, how it makes you feel, what you would wish for this relationship, what you would wish the other person, like what you would wish to happen in this relationship. And that this is something important that you would like to talk about and see if you could kind of work together on this whole thing. Oh, and so you basically say what you wish, you say what you want, but then you leave the other person the freedom to decide if they want to follow up on that and actually, not cross your boundaries, or if they still want to cross your boundary. And so the thing really is to understand here is that if you leave them the space, doesn't mean that you're just gonna have them do whatever they want. You can still recalibrate. Like if you say continuously in different situations, you say your boundary and you say like how it makes you feel and what you would wish to happen and what you feel is important to you and why it is important to you. And so you really communicate that, and the other person always steps over your boundaries. Then you might have to communicate about that, and maybe it's not the right person. But on the other hand, if you always just very strictly say like, this is my boundary, if you cross it then it's over, then you're also going to have a very hard time to stay in a relationship, because relationships are actually, like you're melting together, and then like you realize, okay, that was too much, and then it kind of like it's always a back and forth, and it's like and a boundary can change as well. Like maybe this day it's not okay that the person goes to that event, or some other day you're gonna feel okay with that. And so it's always changing all the time. And really being in relationship means really to relate with each other, being in communication, like starting to really understand how is the other person working, how am I working, how am I feeling, how's the other person feeling, how this action makes the other person feel, and how the action of the other person makes me feel, and just really being in communication with that. And so really to set healthy boundaries is like you first have to understand what is going on inside of yourself. Like why is this a boundary? Like, is it actually a boundary in a sense that it doesn't feel right to you? It's just like coming from the core of your being that doesn't feel good to you? Or is it an insecurity that wants to be, looked at and brought to the surface such that you can let it go, and then it might be okay. And so the first thing is really to understand why does it not work for you, what's going on. And then the second step is really to communicate about it with the other person, but not projecting it onto the other person, not saying like you are the cause of me feeling bad, you are kind of like the guilt game. Don't play the guilt game in the sense that you say like you are such a bad person, do this, but rather come from a sharing perspective, like share with the other person how it makes you feel if the other person does that, how you would want like the relationship to look like, in a sense that like this is important to you, that is important to you, this is your value, that is your value, and you would love the relationship to be according to your values and like share those values. That's the second step. Then the third step is really to say, this is my truth, this is really what I feel, this is why I feel about it this way, and this is what I would wish for the relationship, and now it's up to you what you are going to do with it. And just leave it at that. Don't try to make the other person do something. Don't force it, And so then the other person as well, if the other person feels like there's some boundaries crossed, they start to communicate with you. And so you're going to have to like find a way, and I don't like to call it compromise, because it's not that you're kind of like, betraying yourself. If you really feel there's something happening that is really not good for you, then you have to really kind of step out and really talk about it. And you cannot stay in a relationship long term where you feel like you're betraying yourself. But this very moment of like, I feel this doesn't feel good, it could change over time, and it could change with communication. So it's really important that you don't, overreact and just say like, okay, this is the boundary, you crossed it, okay, now it's over. But you rather feel into that boundary, you feel into that feeling. Why does it feel like it's not good? And how, like, what is actually happening? Can we communicate about it? Could it change? And really being in this dialogue with yourself, like with your own truth, but also with the other person. And then you're going to find a way, I don't call that a compromise, I find you're going to find a balance between each other people's, like needs. You start to really understand what the other person really needs and wants, and what you really need and want, and how you can find each other somewhere where you're really like, where you're really connecting with each other and not betraying yourself. You have to find a point where you're really not betraying yourself. And so that's really kind of like this balance. It's like standing up for yourself and really feeling what is really important to you and really communicating that, and standing up for yourself in the sense that if you feel that something is really dear to you and really important to you, and the other person continuously really steps over the boundary, then you have to communicate more clearly about it. And in the long run, if the other person always steps across this boundary and never really, goes into a conscious dialogue about it, so you can find a way that works for both, then you might have to leave this relationship or friendship. But it's not really when it happens, it's not really kind of when it just comes up. It's really in the long run, you just have to be true to yourself. But on this way, there might be things happening that you don't really, in the beginning you're like, okay, this is a boundary, but then you realize, okay, it was because I didn't feel appreciated by the other person, or didn't feel that trust from the other person, or didn't feel this or that from the other person, such that this wouldn't be a boundary. And so this this fact that it evolves all the time really is something very important to understand, and this is also going to make those boundaries change. And so it's really about staying in this communication with the other person that is going to make a relationship or in a friendship work out. And so, just to summarize, first really feel inside of yourself, what is it that you really want? What is it that you don't want? Why do you feel like a boundary has been crossed? What is really behind that? What kind of value has not been, does it clash with any values of you, or with any way that you just, like your core values, or who you really are, or what's really going on? Like, is it really deep down, or is it insecurity? So that's the first thing, really understanding why and what is really happening, like feeling inside of yourself. The second thing is really to communicate about it and just share it from a sharing perspective. Just say like, I'm sharing this with you because I just want you to know what's happening on my side, and I would love you to enter a conscious dialogue about it, such that we can get to a point where I feel comfortable and I don't feel like my boundaries are crossed all the time. And then the third thing is you say that and you just leave it there. You don't force the other person to do something. And then this process always goes on. Like then at some point it's another boundary you have to really feel inside of yourself, and just really start to with understanding yourself better, start to feel what's necessary in that moment. Like, is it necessary to be more clear and state what's actually happening, or is it necessary to let go of like an insecurity or something that is coming up? And always being in this conscious process with yourself, feeling inside of yourself what's actually happening, what is the right action to do, and then also staying really in conscious communication with the other person. So I hope this video helped you to be more able to like have healthy boundaries, but also stay in really communication with the other person. And if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to support my channel and turn on notifications so you'll be notified for new videos. And as I said, there are free 30-minute coaching calls available for the embodied authenticity coaching, helping you to let go of your mental and emotional blocks for you to achieve your goal, your authentic goal, in 6 months. And also with this whole topic of boundaries and so on, it's really important to see that oftentimes there are like mental and emotional blocks or kind of stories coming up that want to be released. So if you're interested in coaching or going deeper on that, just sign up in the link in the description. And I wish you all a great day and watch some more of my videos. This one is the one that YouTube thinks you would like the most, and this one is my most recent video. So have fun watching and have a great day. Goodbye, everyone.